Maryland's well represented this morning. uh, so he's going to talk to us about slaying the rogue access with Python and cheap hardware. And what I've been seeing up here, him getting ready to share with us, looks like some really good information. So let's everybody welcome Gabriel.
What's up, guys? No?
Now you're off.
Okay, that's not good.
Yeah, you're on. All right, speak up.
Can you guys hear me now? Awesome.
Bring it a little closer.
Challenge number 1, learn how to mic. So welcome to BSides. I'm Gabriel Ryan, and this is a presentation on basically rogue access point attacks and how to protect against them. So for those of you who do not know, a rogue access point attack is a wireless attack that the primary way that it works is you basically...
Hi folks, Iron Geek here. Unfortunately, we had a small technical difficulty, and so we have no audio until about the 2-minute 49-second mark. Sorry for the difficulties.
And this is the legitimate Starbucks Wi-Fi access point. It's running on channel 7, and the SSID is set to Starbucks Wi-Fi, so that's like the name of the Wi-Fi network. It's what would show up in your nearby networks list. So if that were to show up, if you have that legitimate one, and then an attacker spins up their own access point that's named Starbucks Wi-Fi, it's running on channel 6, how can you tell the difference? How will a wireless client, so like your cell phone or your laptop or whatever, be able to tell the difference between the legitimate access point and the fake one? Well, it can't. So, what you can do is that you can spin up, what an attacker can do in our Starbucks scenario, is that they can spin up a wireless access point with Starbucks Wi-Fi on channel 6, and so long as their signal strength is stronger, and that's not that hard to achieve because like if you're sitting next to the guy and the router's somewhere across the room, so you can get like an external Wi-Fi card and spin up like your own access point with Starbucks Wi-Fi on channel 6. What will happen is that most, if not all, of the nearby clients that were connected previously to Starbucks Wi-Fi, the real one, will drop their connections and associate with yours instead. So this is an awesome thing because at this point, we could do what's in our scenario. We were trying to get the login credentials to use the Wi-Fi. We could spin up our own fake, kind of version of that, and they type in their Starbucks creds, and now we have access to Wi-Fi too. We just take down our access point. They'll go back to doing what they were doing, and we can connect. You can also route all this traffic that connects to your access point out through another wireless interface to the internet. This is actually the more common way of doing this because it's a little easier. Let's say you have like an external like Wi-Fi dongle or something like that. You can get people to connect to you, set up like an NAT using IP tables from that access point that you've set up, and they're connecting to you, and then route all their traffic out to the internet. You have a man-in-the-middle attack now, and you can do things like run like SSL strip 2 and DNS to proxy, and you have and do like, HSTS bypasses and steal a lot of stuff. So, what are the advantages of this kind of attack? Well, they're relatively easy to perform. I mean, you literally, in the most basic sense, You just need to like have a way of spinning up an access point. And there's software like already available for that. You can just download like host APD and set up like an access point that way. They're also really hard to detect. And you'd think, okay, so why is it hard to detect? Well, we'll go into that later, actually. But despite the fact that it would seem obvious that there's like an access point up that shouldn't be there, there actually are some ways that this can be kind of tricky to mitigate. And the other advantage, I think from like a red team perspective, this is actually like the most advantageous thing about using an evil twin as opposed to a different wireless attack is very targeted. So like if you're using like a karma attack, which we're going to go over later, it's kind of like throwing out like a wireless frag grenade or something like that. It's going to get everyone nearby. You don't want to do that. Like if you're going after a specific network, this is going to target a specific network only with the SSID with which you are spinning up the wireless access point. So that's a good thing because you stay within your scope. So what are the disadvantages? Well, it doesn't work against like WPA or even WEP networks out of the box because in order to actually successfully impersonate one of these access points, you need to have you need to have already cracked the network essentially, and so that's out of the box. It's not going to work. But you can be sneaky. You can listen for probe requests from associated clients. So like every wireless device that you have, like your cell phone, your laptop, whatever, once it connects to a network, that information, the SSID and channel, is saved in your list of preferred networks. And your wireless device will constantly send out probe requests saying, hey, is this network nearby? Is it nearby? And if it happens to go near one of the networks that it was previously associated with, you'll get a probe response from that saying, yes, I'm located near there. And that's kind of how your device knows to connect to networks that it's previously connected to. So what you can do is you can listen for those. You can listen for those, for those like probe requests coming from devices that are associated with the target network, and you can basically use that to identify a preferred network that is common amongst multiple of these devices, and then you can just spin up a rogue access point that has the SSID and channel of that. And the cool thing about that is, then if you just send some DOF packets to the target, they'll drop their connections from the target and connect to your evil twin of the preferred network thing that all these clients have in common, and you can go from there. So, how do we detect evil twin attacks? Well, the most common way to detect about it, when you think about it, the easiest way to do this is whitelisting, right? Because if you start, you can sniff for, you can create a whitelist of like legitimate access points, right? With the BSSID, not the network address, but like or network name, but like the actual BSSID of the hardware access point. You can set up a list of those that correspond to the SSID of your network, and you can sniff continuously for probe responses, coming from nearby access points. And if you get a probe response that is identified with your SSID, your network name, but the BSSID is not in your whitelist, well, at that point, something fishy is going on, and you can take action accordingly. So if we look at this diagram here, we have the rogue access point is over on one side, and it's saying, I have ESSID Starbucks. So you happen to be the Starbucks network admin. So you have this IDS set up, and your IDS sends like a query to like your whitelist API or whatever, and says, is this BSSID 001122334400 allowed? Is it in our whitelist? Whitelist API responds and says, nope, it's not. So the ITS at that point freaks out, goes help, goes like alerts the sysadmins and stuff like that, and you can take action and starts deauthing the rogue access point, what have you. Why doesn't this always work? Well, so this is great. You can detect it this way unless the attacker actually bothers to spoof their BSSID, right? Because if they spoof their BSSID, they can make their access point look like whatever they want. So if they take the time to identify, to locate, identify like one of the access points on your network, and basically just like take note of the BSSID, they can actually set up their access point so it has the same BSSID as one of yours. So at that point, whitelisting will fail because, for all intents and purposes, it looks exactly like one of your legitimate access points. So how do we get around this? Well, we can pay attention to signal strength. So, wireless access points, in theory, they shouldn't move around very much, right? So if I have like a wireless router or a wireless access point, and I set up somewhere, it's not going to like migrate from one side of the room to the other, you hope. So let's say that I have a wireless access point set up right here. And on that side of the room over there, we set up a packet sniffer, and it listens for, like basically 802.11 packets that are associated with our access point that we set up over here. Now the TX value in that indicates the signal strength should not change very much over time. Like, so it shouldn't vary very much. So what this means is that, and I'm getting my slides all, okay. What this means is that you can establish a baseline signal strength of your access point. And actually, let's rewind a bit. So yeah, we have this signal strength, and we have this packet sniffer, and it's listening for packets coming from our access point. And we notice that the TX value should not change very much. Now, what if some guy rolls up in the parking lot? Like some sketchy white van, has a bunch of weird antennas coming out of it, like has like this crazy looking Yagi antenna on the top, and it's just has the cliche like hacker like what do they have like in the stock photos? Like with and it has the hood and everything. He's doing that out there. Well, we're going to start picking up packets from him too, but the signal strength is not going to be the same as what's coming from in here because he's outside, so or just a different distance away. So what that means is that we can listen, we can establish a baseline signal strength from our access points to our IDS device, and we can kind of just establish this baseline average, and then any packets that we receive that are supposedly coming coming from our access point, but vary by this baseline by like a certain degree, by like a certain threshold. So either greater than or less than or whatever. That tells us that something's fishy, and it's probably not actually coming from our access point. It's probably originating from a rogue access point, and we need to take action. So demo time, and we'll see if this works on here. So I made the terminals very, very big so that you can see them, but it's making it a little hard to type, so bear with me here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to spin up a wireless access point. It's actually going to spin up an evil twin. And just before anybody freaks out, the network name is free Wi-Fi, so if you see free Wi-Fi, that's it. But it's not actually. It's basically we're using a gutted version of the Mana framework, the Mana toolkit. So it doesn't actually, like all the SSL strip and all that stuff is removed from it. And if you connect to it, it's just not really it's not gonna do anything. In fact, it should repel most people from associating to begin with. But we're gonna spin that up, and we're gonna try to detect it. So over here, first thing we're gonna set up is make sure my network interfaces are up. Okay. Bear with me just one moment. Evil twin. Okay. So we're going to run that, and we're going to start this. Now, as you can see here in this output, we've almost immediately, the second that showed up, we've noticed that we're getting these probe responses from this evil twin thing because the idea here is that we're actually trying to serve this SSID named free Wi-Fi. But what you can see here is that we're receiving probe responses from the evil twin, and it's not on our whitelist. And at that point, it's not actually deauthing anything, by the way, just printing that. I haven't commented it out for legal purposes, but that's kind of what it would be doing. It would be detecting that, and then just sending out email alerts to whoever, and deauthing the thing. Oh, it doesn't want to stop, does it? Okay. So that was that. I'm not going to test out the TX one because I don't have a thing that I can move in other parts of the room. But the source code's available online, so if you want to play with it, go for it. So karma attacks. This is the second type, and it's kind of like actually a more sophisticated rogue access point attack. The way a karma attack works is that whereas an evil twin was very targeted, it targets a specific network, you can think of a karma attack as just kind of like lobbing a wireless frag grenade in the middle of the room and just poning everything in sight. The way that it works is that, remember what you talked about, these probe requests coming from your different clients, your wireless clients. So you listen for those, and what a rogue access point, doing a karma attack will do is it will respond to each of these probe requests, saying, yes, I am that network. So if we look at this at this this kind of example here, we have client 1. The client 1 at the very bottom should say client 3. I don't know why it says client 1. Just pretend it says client 3. But we have client 1 at the top, and it says, hey, I'm looking for Linksys. It sends out a probe request for Linksys. The rogue AP responds, yeah, that's me. I'm Linksys. Connect to me, bro. And client 1 does. So then client 2 sends out, another probe request for, yeah, I'm looking for ATT Wi-Fi. And then, Rogue AP is like, yeah, you got it. That's me. I'm ATT Wi-Fi. So client 2 just like, okay, it just connects to it. And then you have at the bottom there, this one right here, the very bottom should actually say client 3. We'll just call it client 3. Client 3 sends out a request, looking for NSA surveillance band. And, like Rogue AP is like, yeah, man, that's me. Where's White Castle? Let's do it. So, client 3 connects to that. And, in this scenario, client 1 and 2 and 3, unfortunately, they all just get pwned by this rogue access point because that rogue access point was just kind of lying. So what are the advantages of this? It's relatively automatic. The cool thing about this attack is that once you have like a device that does this, it does not actually require that much work to set it up. You have a script, you run it, and it'll just start pwning everything kind of nearby. A good example of a tool that already does this is the Wi-Fi Pineapple. And you guys have heard of that, but that's one of the main things that it does. It does karma attacks. So it's fast. You could, and it requires minimal supervision. You could literally be like driving down the highway and running something doing this, and probably you'd be getting like people in the lanes left and right of you like connected to you. It's like scary. And you can still target nearby APs. You can still target nearby wireless access points. Let's say that we're like trying to attack Starbucks again, but this time Starbucks for some reason is running a WPA network. Oh, we can just like spin up like a device doing a karma attack, and then start deauthing Starbucks, and then what would happen is like all the clients connected to that would then connect to you. It's a little messier than the evil twin, but still kind of does a similar thing. What are the disadvantages? It's actually really easy to spot. And the reason for this is that a single access point should not respond to probe requests for multiple ESIDs. So let's use a bar example, because we like bars. So let's say that you walk into a bar, and you're looking for your buddy at the bar. Actually, you've never met your buddy. It's a blind date. And his name is Bob. So you walk into the bar, and you're looking for Bob. So you go into the bar, and you say, is anyone here named Bob? And some sketchy dude in a DEF CON t-shirt in the back says, yeah, I'm Bob. That's me. So you might be inclined to believe him, because like, why would he lie about that? You just said he's Bob. Like, why would he lie about your name? But hold up. Let's go backward a little bit. Let's say that we're not actually just like going to the bar just to look for some dude named Bob. Our job description is professional bullshit detector. So we step into the bar, and we're like, yeah, is anyone here named Bob? Sketchy dude in the DEF CON t-shirt stands up, says, yeah, I'm Bob. So you're like, okay. You just step back out of the bar. You walk back into the bar, and then you're like, yeah, is anybody here named Jamie? And then, sketchy guy in the DEF CON t-shirt stands up again and says, yeah, I'm Jamie. And then, well, this guy just said he was Bob, now he's saying it's Jamie. Well, the same thing is true with like, rogue APs, right? If you have an access point that you ask it, you start looking out, is Linksys nearby? And you get a certain BSID coming, responding back to you and saying, yeah, I'm Linksys. And then you ask, well, is what's another common one? ATT Wi-Fi nearby. And then you get a response back and it's saying, yeah, I'm ATT Wi-Fi, but it's the same BSID. So now you have this access point that's responded to, it sent me probe responses for 2 different SSIDs. So that's contradictory. That can't happen. And that's how we know we have a karma attack. So an example here, what you can do is if you want to protect against these kinds of attacks using some kind of tool, you can programmatically send out a probe request or some arbitrary string of characters as the SSID. And you can then just take note of who responds to that. And then you can send out a second probe request for another arbitrary string of characters. And then take note of who responds to that. And if you start seeing any overlap, if you start seeing access points that are responding to multiple just kind of arbitrary probe requests, then you know that you have a karma attack and you need to do something. So time for another demo. I'm praying to the Wi-Fi gods that this actually works, because it wasn't working like this morning, but that's where it works most of the time. So we're gonna spin up the another one here, and we're going to run sentrygun.py. And this time, instead of looking for evil twins, we're going to look for karma attacks. So we're sending probe requests. Sending probe request 0 for this thingy, and it's sending out that kind of like massive SSID as the probe request. And so what's happened here is that we've now sent out 2 probe requests for 2 different SSIDs, and they have actually, we've received 2 different, probe responses, a probe response for each from the same Wi-Fi network. And that is what we're seeing over here, and it's now deauthing the rogue access point. And I'm going to stop this thing before I piss somebody off. So that's how you do that. So what are some existing solutions to rogue AP protection? I mean, there are some good ones out there. There is Airwave. You know, it's made by this company called Aruba Networks, and the list price is $2,750 for a software license for 25 devices. So that's a lot of money. You also have like the Cisco 600 series, a wireless access point. You know, purportedly it can detect this stuff and do something about it. $419 a unit. Of course, you can negotiate these down and buy in bulk and what have you. Fluke Networks has the Air Magnet Wi-Fi Analyzer Pro. List price is just over $4,000 for a software license. It's kind of insane, but it's a good piece of software, right? Okay, I'm not supposed to make fun of Fluke here. Oh, okay, make fun of Fluke. What he said. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool, but like, you know, you can understand that like a network admin, you know, on a budget is not going to be, I mean, like the last thing that someone trying to just set up a network, right, and it's like an enterprise network, and they're not really, you know, they don't just have like an limited funds. It's like the last thing on their list is going to be rogue AP protection because it's expensive, and there are arguably stuff that's probably more important. But we should ask ourselves, what are the bare minimum resources necessary for effective rogue AP mitigation? Well, I mean, if you just stick to like, you know, open source tools like the ones we just ran, that doesn't cost anything, and you can run those on like a Raspberry 2, you know, Model B that costs you $35 a unit, and then you can stick like just a cheap $10 TP-Link as your interface on that, and it works beautifully, high gain, all that stuff, and that reduces the cost of rogue AP protection to under $60 per unit if you do it yourself. So if you want to do that, source code's there, and that's my talk. And what's up? Sure. Oh, questions?
Yeah. So the Karma attack sounded a lot like the evil twin, but the twin looks like everybody. Is that fair?
Sort of. It's actually the other way around. So the Karma attack pretends to be everybody. So but it relies on the fact that it's not explicitly advertising. So Karma attack doesn't like explicitly advertise a specific network. It just responds to queries for networks. Yes. The evil twin, at that point, you actually try to look like a specific network, and just kind of that's how it does that.
So another question. This
Sure.
Probably showing ignorance because I don't know anything.
No,
about
man.
this.
It's chill.
One idea that comes to mind for the Karma attack, you said it's easy to detect because you'll send it a request, or it'll answer probes for different SSIDs.
Yes.
Yes, with the same device ID.
Yes.
Could the rogue AP randomize the device ID that it responds with?
Yes, you could. You could totally do that.
And then it would have to keep up with who's requesting and make sure that it uses the same one with that particular client.
Yep. And that's why Karma attacks are really elite, because if you take it to that extent, then, well, I don't really have a solution for that.
I have another question. I hate to be the one talking.
No, it's chill, man.
I don't understand what the deoff signal is. How does that, like, you said deoff, as if that's like a machine gun shooting back at the rogue AP. How does that keep the rogue AP from doing its job?
So what you want to do, if you have a bunch of wireless devices, what you're actually trying to protect here isn't so much your network, but the devices connected to networks. Because if they get like ensnared by one of these like rogue AP attacks, then their data's at risk. So what you can do is you can launch DAuth packets, just broadcast them for that BSides. What that will do is it will trigger any device that is connected to it to disassociate it. So
Telling all the devices, this one's bad, don't use this one.
yes. And I guess the FCC doesn't like it when you use the word jam Wi-Fi, so I'm not going to use the word jam Wi-Fi. But hypothetically, this is more or less you're jamming Wi-Fi for that access point. Anything else? Any more questions? What's up?
Any way to, for the deal, any way to tie into like a Cisco controller to automate that process?
Probably, yeah.
Look at that.
I'm thinking like there's probably like an API with Cisco or something like that, and you could probably just find some way to hook it into that, and you can do that.
Question, please.
I was asking if there's any research into programmatically hooking into a Cisco wireless controller to send out the deal once you detect it.
I'm sure that Cisco has an API of some kind, or something that you could use as an API, and if you, whatever tool that you're using, if you give that an API as well, or some way to communicate with that Cisco API, then you just have this stuff communicate back and forth, and you can just get it to do whatever you want. What's up?
Some of the wireless IPS stuff does try to do this detection, but then if you just want to do DDoS, if you want to do denial of service, if you start playing with any of these, pretty soon your own system starts shutting down everybody in the neighborhood, including your own people.
Right.
So yeah,
It gets messy.
there's a reason that you still pull copper and fiber.
What he said. Any other questions? Anyone in the back? No. You look curious. What? No. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to play around with the source code that we use to demo this stuff, it's at that URL right there. I'll leave it up for a bit if you want to write it down. But that's it. Thank you.